Hi everyone, and welcome to the Stitch Sessions. If you're new here, I'm Karen. If you're not new here, welcome back and welcome to the month of June. I can't believe it. Where's the time going? It's the first Wednesday of a new month, and many of you know that it means we are tackling our next project in our Shawl We Crochet series for 2022. This month's project is the Freedom Shawl, appropriately named, with the yellow and blue prominent colors. And I think it's a perfect way to symbolize our hope and our want for peace and tranquility in the world and for everyone to get along. And a great way also to explore a new shawl shape, which is the Crescent shape shawl. So for this series this year, we've been doing all things shawl related. And in particular, we've been exploring different shawl shapes or how to construct the different shapes. And so we've now done a semicircle shawl, but we have not yet tackled a crescent shape shawl. So some crescent shape shawls are much more subtle and others are a little bit more prominent. And so I decided to make this one a lot more prominent in its design. And what's lovely about the crescent shape is that it really sits on the shoulders so beautifully and it drapes really lovely. This particular shawl sits just around my hip area, which is a great length for me. And I love how when you fold it over your shoulders, the colorways kind of come together a little bit in a slant. So it just gives us, it's really interesting design. And yeah, I really enjoyed creating this one. Now, of course, you can make it in different colors, but again, I specifically wanted to use the yellow and the blue to represent my love and respect for the Ukrainian people and all the Ukrainian friends that I have, which, coming from the dance community, many of you know I teach ballroom dancing. There are many, many dancers that are from the Ukraine. So I hope it'll be something to just continue keeping them in your minds and in your hearts. And hopefully we'll all get to a better place very, very soon. So as always, let's first dive into the materials we're going to need for this project and get you started on stitching up your Freedom Shawl. Okay, so the yarn I'm going to be using for this shawl project, I'm going to be using a combination of two yarns, and this is the Bernat Softy Baby, and it is a lightweight number 3 yarn. And it comes in 140 gram skein or 362 yards or 331 meters. It's the Bernat Softy Chunky. And in case you're wondering, the exact color is called Navy Marine. And I've got one of these skeins. So you will need 2 of these skeins. And for my yellow color, I am using this beautiful True Boo yarn by Lion Brand. And it is 100% rayon, if I can get the camera to focus there. Also considered a lightweight number 3 yarn. Now, I tried to find a yellow color in the Bernat Softy Baby, but I just couldn't seem to come across the exact yarn in yellow. And I came across this beautiful yarn by Lion Brand, the True Boo yarn, and it's a pretty comparable size 3. They're both a size 3 weight yarn, but not all size 3s are created equal. But this was very comparable, and I liked the shade of yellow against the blue for the theme of this shawl. So these skeins come in, let me see here. They come in a 100 gram ball, and they contain 241 yards or 220 meters. And I picked up 2 of these just to be on the safe side. And for the hook, I am going to be using a 5mm hook, which is also known as a size H or a number 8. I'm hoping that you guys can see that on the camera there, okay? As always, make sure that you have a pair of scissors on hand and a yarn needle to sew in any ends at the end. You may also want to have a couple of stitch markers on hand just to kind of help you identify your ends at all times. So let's begin our shawl. Okay, so before we get started, let's just clarify the crescent shape. So many of you have seen our semicircle shawl. So it has this straight edge and then it has a circular shape at the top, okay? With a crescent shape, what happens is the edge is a little bit softer, okay? So then your crescent does something like that. So that's, sorry, I should soften those edges a bit more. So that would be more of a crescent shape. It's got this slight curvature, but it doesn't come to a super sharp stop there. So the crescent shape we're going to work on for this project is going to be a little sharper than this. See how that's kind of like a half moon? So this project is actually going to have a much sharper shape to it. So the crescent's going to be a lot more compacted in. And then as you build the shawl, your shape continues like that. So it just continues to grow and grow and grow, okay? We are going to continue follow the basic principles of how to crochet a circle. And I have a fantastic lesson on that, which I'll leave a link for that video in the description box down below. So meaning that is how we're going to create the width or the length of our shawl and maintain its curvature. And I'll go over that once we get started on our shape. Once you get the first few rows going, the rest are just continual repeats, okay? And of course, you can make your shawl as long as you like. So, semicircle shawl, a soft crescent shape, and this is a much more sharper crescent shape, okay? So you can see the shaping this way, a lot sharper than that. And this is the one we're going to tackle today. So to begin our shawl, we're actually going to use a cinch circle. So you're just going to wrap your yarn around your fingers like that. And then you're going to pull up a loop. It's a little wonky here. And you're going to chain one to secure your loop there. Okay, just like that. And then I like to pull my tail out a little bit there. There we go. Okay, so we are going to be using the double crochet stitch for this entire pattern, so keeping it nice and easy stitch-wise. So we're going to chain up another 2, 1 and 2, and this will count as a double crochet stitch, the height of a stitch. Into our ring, we want to do an additional 6 double crochets. So you're going to insert into your ring, make sure you always catch that tail there, because that's what's going to help us cinch our circle shut. It's going to feel a little wonky if you're new at this. Just hang in there. So there's the second one. And I'm going to keep going until I have a total of 7 stitches altogether. So that chain 3 will count as a stitch. Okay, I've got my 7 stitches completed, and now I'm just going to take that little tail and I'm going to cinch that center shut. Okay, so when you take it out, you actually have this little mini semicircle. Okay, so that is going to be the center or the base of our crescent shape, believe it or not, even though it looks like a semicircle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn our work and right back into that very first stitch right there. We are going to place a double crochet stitch. And by the way, I guess you've noticed that I am going to be starting with the yellow color first. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. And then we're going to use our blue after a few rows. So into the next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochet stitches. So we are basically placing an increase into every stitch all the way around this little semicircle. Okay, so that's what you're going to keep doing all the way to the end. 2 double crochets into each stitch. Okay, now I'm going into what looks like my last stitch here, but remember that we have that chain 3. So I just like to kind of go over this, especially if you're a little bit newer. This is a common boo-boo that can happen if you don't catch it. See, that looks like it's the last stitch. But if I had 6 double crochets to begin, then I should still have 6 sets of 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, sorry, I had 7 double crochets to begin. So I should have 7 sets here of these 2 stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we're missing one. And see, it can get really easy to hide there. So we've got to make sure that we find our chain 3. See, it's easy for it to get lost there, okay? We have to go into the top of that chain 3 and place our last set of increases. So you really just want to stretch the top of that chain if you need. Probably gonna have to help that through. And then place your 2 double crochets there. 1 and 2. Okay, so now we've got the proper shape happening there. Okay, so that's round 2. So at the end of round 2, you're going to have 14 stitches. You had 7 at the beginning of round 1, or at the end of round 1, and then 14 at the end of round 2. Now let's move on to round number 3. So for round number 3, we're still continuing to follow the base principles of crocheting a circle. So you're going to start by chaining 3 and turning our work. Okay. So in row 3, we're now going to increase into every second stitch. So in the previous round, we had increased in every stitch, and now it's in every second stitch. So I'm going to start off with an increase here. And I'm going to place a double crochet. That chain 3 will count as a stitch. Into the next stitch, I'm just going to place 1 double crochet. Okay, and that is kind of the repeat. Increase, individual, increase, individual. Okay, so into the next stitch, I would be doing an increase, which means 2 double crochets. And then 1 double crochet. Just like that. Okay, you're going to keep doing that all the way to the end of round 3. And you should have 21 stitches at the end. Okay, at the end of round 3, my shape is looking like this, okay? And now we're gonna start to really force it into more of a crescent shape from here. So we've done an increase in every second stitch. Now, at the beginning and at the end of the next round, we're going to increase with 3 stitches. So it's, I don't know if you'd call that a double. It's not really a double increase, but it is an extra increase. So at the beginning of round number 4, it's actually rows, but I keep calling it rounds. We're going to chain 3 and we're going to turn our work. And this time into the very first stitch, we're going to place an additional 2 double crochet stitches. So when we have more increases at the end on each side, what it does is it creates the need for the work to start to bow down more. And that's what's going to give us that crescent shape. And now for row 4, so once we've done our increase of 3, so the chain 3 counts as 1, and then we've got 2 more, we're now going to continue with our base principles of a circle. So we are going to place 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So we have 1 and 2. Remember, we did only 1 in the previous row before we increased. And now we're going to place an increase. So we're going to place 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. So for the rest of this row, you're going to place 2 individual double crochet stitches, 1 and then 2. And then you're going to place an increase in the next one. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So there's the second one here. okay? So you're gonna repeat that all the way to the end, except remember, it doesn't matter where you are in that repeat, the very last stitch, which is gonna be the top of your chain 3, is going to get 3 stitches in there, okay? Okay, so I'm just placing 3 stitches into the very last stitch. And at the end of row 4, you should have 31 stitches in total. Okay, and I just want to show you here on the repeat. So you see we had an increase, 1, 1, increase, 1, and then we had only 1 stitch left. So that's where we placed our 3 stitches. So do not worry at all that you didn't have enough space to put 2. Technically, this would have been the second one. But because we're now doing that on each end, see how it's bowing down? That's exactly what we want to have happen. So now you're going to see that the shape is going to bow down a lot more sharply than before. Okay, so now let's move on to row number 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just go ahead and sew this tail end because it's just kind of getting in my way a little bit. And then I will continue on with row number 5. Okay, so for row 5, we're going to chain 3. And we're only going to do a regular increase this time. That means we're only going to place 1 more double crochet into that first stitch. So the placing of the 3 stitches is really what helps it shape out, but you don't want to be doing that for every row because then you're just going to have something that eventually just curls in a coil, and that's not what we're looking for. So you want to keep it nice and even. So there's an increase. So now we're going to go back to our regular system of increases. So now we want to place a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So we're going to separate our increases by 3 stitches for this row. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now we're going to place an increase. So we're going to put 2 stitches into the next stitch. 1 and 2. Okay, and that is the repeat now. So 1, 2, 3, and 2. 1, 2, 3, and 2, all the way to the end. And in the last stitch, you will place an increase no matter what. So just a regular increase with 2 stitches. Okay, so at the end of round 5, or row 5, sorry guys, I have 40 stitches. So you can really see, looks like a cute little crescent moon shape. And we have 1 more row we're going to do in the blue for now for this design, okay? So for round number 6, we're going to go back to doing that triple stitch increase. So we will chain 3, turn your work, and you're going to place 2 double crochets back into this stitch. So we're just alternating for a few of these rows, but we won't keep doing these 3 stitches like this forever. This is just to kind of create the initial base of the shape. So now for our increases, we want to place 4 double crochets between our increases. So we're going to place 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then into the next one, we place an increase, which is 2 double crochets back into the same stitch. Okay, just like that. So that is your repeat to the end of this row. This is row number 6, our last yellow row. And into the very last stitch, which remember it's at the top of that chain 3, we're placing 3 double crochets into that stitch. Okay, so I have finished round number 6, or row number 6, sorry, I keep saying rounds. And I have a total of 51 stitches. Okay, so I like how you could actually use this as a little applique on something, a crescent moon applique, very cute. Okay, so we're gonna change colors now. I'm gonna bring in my blue, and you can do that by placing a slip knot on your hook if you like. just like that. Okay, and I'm going to go right back into where I left off, and I'm just going to insert my hook and then slip stitch to join my yarn here. Just like that. Okay, and so now we're going to chain 3 as usual. 1, 2, 3. Turn our work. And so because we did 3, a set of 3 in the previous round, we are not going to do 3. We're only going to add 1 additional double crochet stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert, just like that. Okay. And now our increases are going to happen in after every 5 stitches. So see, we had an increase here, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another increase. So we're going to do 5 stitches before we increase in this round. So there's 1. So pretty much, hopefully at this point, you're getting the gist of how the pattern is working. We're just following the simple principles of creating a circular shape, but we're just alternating what happens on the ends, the beginning and the end of these rows. That's what determines the crescent shape and what keeps it going that way. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know the blue is a little bit dark. And now in the 6th, we're going to do our increase, which is 1 and 2. Okay. So that's what you're going to do all the way around. I'm pretty much going to leave you after this round because it's pretty much the same, because it'll be pretty consistent with what happens next. And I know the blue gets to be very challenging. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my round number 7, row number 7, and I'll meet up with you there. And then I will go over how you're going to keep increasing the size of your shawl. Okay, so I've completed row number 7, and now I love how that blue just accents. So at the end of row 7, you should have 61 stitches in total. Now, if you notice a difference in the coloration here, I had to change cameras because my other battery died. So if you just notice a coloration difference, that's why. This one tends to be a lot more vibrant, and so it could be a little bit distracting. Okay, so now what's going to happen from here? This is how you're going to continue to build your crescent shawl. And it's just going to be a matter of changing the colors between the yellow and the blue to create that effect that we're going to have. Now, the increases, the 3 stitches on each end, are only going to continue for another 2 times, okay? So we didn't have a double increase here. So I'm just going to take a little pad paper here just to kind of help things make sense. So for row 8, you will have an increase with 3, okay? Row 9, we'll just have a regular increase. Row 10, we'll have an increase of 3. So that means 3 stitches on each end. Row 11 will have a regular increase, and then row 12 will also have a regular increase. So we're only doing the 3 stitches on each end for row 8 and row 10. And so this should take you to the end of your blue yarn, okay? For the rest of the project after this, we will not do any more increases with 3. All the increases on each end will just be the regular increase, okay? So we had 6 rows of yellow, 6 rows of blue, and then 6 rows of yellow again. So then from row 14 to 18, that's going to be yellow again, okay? But then we're going to go on to rows 19 to 41, and that's going to be the blue. So now we really want that contrast between the blue and the yellow, basically like the flag, to really stand out. So we're going to have a larger chunk of the blue, and then we're also going to do from 42 to 63, we're going to have the yellow. And that's where we end off. Now, that's where I ended off, by the way. Of course, if you want to make yours super long, you can. But I really wanted it in many ways to look like that flag is draping over your shoulders. And so that's basically all you need to keep in mind is where we're going to place those other increases of 3, and then the rest is just the color changes. And you just continue following that. Again, I know I talk about a lot the principles of a circle. So what does that mean? With every row, you're going to increase the number of stitches in between the increases, right? So in row number 7, sorry, that blue and that yellow is really bright, is we had 5 stitches between each increase. So in row number 8, we're going to have 6 stitches between each increase, and then we increase. In row 9, we're going to have 7 between each increase. In row 10, you're going to have 8 stitches between each increase. So hopefully you get the gist of how that works. So you're basically, as your project grows larger, the number of stitches between your increases will increase. And of course, that's going to keep going for as large as you make your project. So I hope that makes sense, because basically once you have this template, now you can just make it as large as you like. Okay, so this is where I leave you guys, and it may be a long while before I see you. So I'm sure you'll be listening to a favorite podcast or your favorite Netflix show. You're off to the races, go for it. By the way, I'm always looking for new podcast suggestions. So let me know what you guys are listening to. I really like listening to Dear Pod. I think I've told you guys this before. It's where her and her friend, her name is Erin, and her friend Patrick, and they read letters from Dear Abby and Ann Landers, and then they respond then they talk about how they would respond to it. It's really cute and kind of funny, and it's a great listen when you're on the go. But anyway, that's my suggestion for you guys. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what podcasts you guys are listening to, and by the time we come back, I'm going to show you the end result of my crescent shape freedom shawl. And here is my crescent shawl complete. And now you can really see that half moon type of shape, and the way the colors came out was so lovely and so beautiful, and just very easy. We just used the double crochet stitch, and of course you can play with your colors in any which way you like, in any order you like. And you can even add an extra trim with maybe a white to give it a border, but I specifically wanted to stick to our blue and yellow for our freedom shawl. I just wanted it to be a little bit more intentional and have real depth and a little extra meaning to this project. So I hope you found it fairly easy to do, and I also hope that you found it very interesting to do in discovering the crescent shape shawl. Not one that we see too often, but there are some projects out there for this shape, and it always makes things very interesting. And it's always nice to kind of try to understand how to structure different shapes in your crochet. So I hope you've enjoyed coming along. I would really, really love it if you would share with me your final projects of the freedom shawl and tag me on Instagram and or Facebook for that matter. I'm at the Stitch Sessions on both of those platforms, and I think it's really important to really connect with each other for this project and share what you have done. So that is it for this month's Shawl We Crochet project. It is the freedom shawl, which we created in the crescent shape. So as always, if you have any questions, make sure to leave them for me in the comment box down below, or you can reach me directly as always at info@crochetcrafty.com. Now, as always, if you like this type of project, make sure to give me a thumbs up. I can tell that a lot of you are really enjoying the shawl project, so that's That gives me some good feedback for future projects, even after our crochet series for this year. So make sure to give me that thumbs up. As always, leave me comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And why not? Come and hang out with me every Wednesday morning. I upload a brand new tutorial. And while you're at it, actually, you should visit me at crochetcrafty.com and sign up for my monthly newsletter. I gift you a free written pattern every month, along with discovering new crochet ideas and colors and patterns and reviews of some of the tutorials that we've done. So lots of fun stuff to do and lots of bonus tools like measuring charts and tools, etc., that you're going to find on the website. So come and visit me there. So have an amazing day, everyone. Happy crocheting. Take good care of yourselves as always. And I look forward to seeing you in next week's session. Bye-bye.